Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I hope you're doing very, very well. The Fallout is a two-parter this week. That's right, it has to be. So much to talk about your team. Let me know about your team in the comments down below. And also, if you're in the comments down below and you come across someone who's just skipped along the video and gone, "With my team," you have my permission to go after them like a pack of wolves. I mean, not the football team wolves, because they can't score or do... I mean, we'll get into that. But what I'm saying is we're going to focus on Sunday's games today. Tomorrow will be Saturday's games. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you do not miss a single video. Let's do it. So some wild results over the weekend, but which teams should be worried? Let's begin with Aston Villa's 4-0 victory over a very, very poor Brentford side. 290 in terms of XG for Aston Villa, 0.95 for Brentford in this one. And I guess the question is, was Gerrard to blame? Well, seemed different, didn't it? They looked like a team transformed in this match with a whole new tactical setup, getting rid of the 4-3-3 that hasn't been working at all this season. They deployed the 4-2-3-1 that allowed their forwards to finally have the support that they've craved all season. Some big changes there as well, the likes of McGinn missing out. The major difference was how to the point and clear-cut Villa's attacking moves were. There were clear instructions for the Villa players in this match to swivel in behind and directly exploit the holes left by this Brentford defence. Instead of aimlessly hoofing the ball goalward, Villa had a clear, methodical approach in attacking the wide areas, something they haven't done. They've been so narrow this season. And I spoke about that in the video where I talk about Gerrard leaving and who should be the right manager to come in. So make sure you check that out if you're a Villa fan. You can see in this screenshot here how proactive the movement in behind from Leon Bailey. And we also see in this subsequent screenshot how ready Danny Ings was. He was fantastic, both in his hold-up play for the team and, of course, finishing ability as well. This was the positivity that we just haven't seen from Villa this season, and taking someone to the sword is going to be so refreshing for those Villa fans who you could see. Sometimes you have those days, don't you? 40 minutes in, you're 3-0 up. And by God, Villa fans needed that in the sun. It was, yeah, it was a big moment for them this season. Another aspect that I loved from this Villa performance was how often they were able to turn an attacking move into a shooting opportunity. Villa took 19 shots in this match, with 11 of them being on target. There was a clear intensity to how they wanted to attack and make sure that every attacking move had, the big word, purpose. This group of players looked like a whole new team versus Brentford, which does make me lean towards the answer that Gerrard was, in fact, the problem, and that his negative tactics weren't designed to get the best out of the players. Just the freedom, you could see it lifted off the shoulders. I think the fact that he was so stubborn and unwilling to change it is also a reason why the Villa players' heads dropped. Brentford, a very bad day for Brentford, as the space they left in behind was repeatedly exposed, which was largely to do with the overloads on Villa's left flank. This might be something Thomas Frank needs to address, and pretty quickly, because you've always got to be careful when you're one of those mid-table sides that if you start to go on a bad run, it can spiral. Villa might have laid the blueprint down on how you beat the Bees. Tottenham 1, Newcastle United 2. The XG 1.63 to Tottenham, 1.27 to Newcastle. Big question here, is it time for Spurs to be that little bit braver than they have been currently? Because it was very much a sort of 50-50 game, but Newcastle deserve it probably because of how well they performed on the night, sure, especially considering how well Tottenham have been at home this season. This was the first defeat for them at home this year, and prior to this game, they'd only conceded 4 goals at White Hart Lane. Is it called White Hart Lane? Whatever it's called. Their stadium. Newcastle, it was another step in the right direction for Newcastle as they move into the top 4 for the first time this season. And Newcastle, look, we said it last week, it is that vibe, isn't it? That Atletico Madrid vibe that we're seeing with Newcastle. And I'm intrigued to know, Newcastle fans, how far do you think this can go? Newcastle only have 1 defeat to their name this season. Now undefeated since August, giving them the longest undefeated run in the entire league so far this season. Newcastle frustrated Spurs on the day, and it's again clear that Eddie Howe, as I said, that time shadowing Atletico, it was time well spent. You can see it all over this team. The only question now is how long until he starts turning up in an all-black suit with a black shirt underneath, of course, and slicks his hair back. anyone wants to tweet me that picture, I'd love to see it. He's got to fully commit to Cholo Howe. One person who deserves huge praise is Kieran Trippier this season. He's been absolutely fantastic, and he's a huge part when it comes to his positioning and his output in terms of allowing Almiron to thrive this season. He has 2.3 key passes per 90, Trippier. He's one of the key creators in this side, and he's also been exceptional in finding space for himself in the attacking half to deliver those balls into the box, and the quality, of course, is there for all to see. His defensive output also outstanding with 3.1 tackles and interceptions per 90, and he's also only been dribbled past 0.8 times per 90 this season, making him a front runner now to be England's most balanced right back and the starting right back for England going into the World Cup. The Spurs, they can't, well, for an Antonio Conte side, they can't really control matches. Here's a diagram of Tottenham's zones of control. This is on The Analyst, so search The Analyst. You'll be able to find this, theanalyst.com. Amazing site. Really enjoying their stats and stuff at the moment. So the blue areas are where Tottenham have had more than 55% possession, and the red areas are where the opposition have had more than 55% possession this season. So as you can see here, Tottenham, they fail to control pretty much everywhere outside of their own box. This makes it easy for teams like Man United and Newcastle to establish early dominance of the ball in midfield areas. And with the quality that they have, it then gives them a platform to punish Spurs, who are they're one-dimensional at this moment in time, which I think you thought they would be stepping away from that by now, but not really seeing it at this moment. This is a worry for the Spurs and obviously Spurs fans, as it shows that they only have one way of playing, and if it doesn't work, then that's them kind of done. They've tried this 3-5-2, which isn't really working despite us all pushing it. Is it time to go to a back four, or did they stick with it and just have that bit more verve in the midfield and look to dominate the ball that little bit more? Because they need to be able to implement a plan B at times. Leeds United 2, Fulham 3, the XG 1.71 to 1.85 in a cracking game. But why can't Leeds stop conceding? Leeds fans, let me know your opinion. Look, going forwards, Leeds have got a cutting edge and a dynamism about them, but over the last few weeks, they've been left wanting when defending, and there might be cause for concern. I always did wonder with Jesse Marsch if there would be this feeling around him, the American dude coming in. There is that lack of respect always, and that sort of credit in the bank isn't there. And I'll give you my views on Jesse Marsch at the end of this little piece, so stick around, I guess, if you were thinking of going. Leeds are now winless in their last 8 Premier League matches and have conceded 15 goals in these matches. The match today highlighted some of the problems they've had this season. Despite being a team based around pressing play, Leeds are quite susceptible to high turnovers themselves, and losing the ball in these areas, it's proving to be very punishing for Jesse Marsch's side at this moment in time. Defending balls into the box and defending their wide areas seems like a real worry for Leeds United at this moment in time. Fulham's first goal was a sort of simple near-post header from a corner, which ultimately came from Fulham crossing the ball in from wide areas. There is a sort of poor delegation in the Leeds defence as to who marks who, both from open play and from set pieces. That first set piece in terms of Mitrovic, it just felt a bit clumsy for the elite level, I've got to be honest. And I don't think they have a commanding voice that seems to take control. And that leaves a lot of room for finger pointing instead of action taking. Fulham's second goal, it was a bit of a disgrace, to be honest, in how easy it was. And it stemmed from this exact problem. These are worrying signs for Leeds, as at the minute it looks like they need to score 3 or 4 goals just to have a chance of winning. When it comes to Jesse Marsch, what I would say is there are elements here in terms of Arteta where it's something that I've spoken about quite a lot on the channel. Do you believe in Jesse Marsch? Do you believe he's smart enough to find the solutions? He said it himself. I think he's a bit too extra in his post-match interviews at times. I think he maybe needs to calm that down. And is he a little bit too nice as well? Is that one where he'll get chewed up by the fans? Possibly. But it's one where, if you back him as a smart man who you know is going to work hard and is going to make the right decisions in time, Leeds United are a mid-table club at this moment in time. So there's going to be good runs and bad runs. Let me know in the comments down below if you think he is that guy. I'm not totally sure but I also wouldn't understand why you've given them the job if you don't think that. Fulham go from strength to strength, and what I would say is beware hubris when it comes to Fulham, because with Fulham, they can pump anyone, absolutely anyone, and it's one of those, it's what made them great back in the day. Everyone plays Fulham when they had like Damien Duff and they would finish in the top 10. They have a good group of pros who go for it and play a good system. You have the same spine every single week, and the opposition go into games against Fulham and they think, well, we should win this. This should be all right. And they get stung time and time again. And that is what is happening this season. You've got to give Silva huge credit for the positivity that he's shown in terms of his play. The same width as last year. It's the same style of play as last year. Some excellent signings. Harrison Reed is possessed right now. Just an amazing week. You know, last week we spoke about how brilliant Andreas Pereira was, and he backed it up again this week with 2 brilliant assists, despite him being on my FPL bench. However, it's Fulham's system that I want to praise this week, because I think Marco Silva has created the perfect system for this group of players, and that is a testament to his work as a coach. I think he will start to get linked with some other jobs soon, because it's, you know, style of play matters, and there is a balance all over the pitch, as well as that width that I spoke about. We spoke about Wilson coming back, and if you have a look here at Willian and Wilson's heat maps from this match, look how wide they received the ball. It's very, very stretched. And when accompanied by the fullbacks attacking it, and in particular, I'm a massive fan of Anthony Robinson, it makes tracking wide movement very, very difficult for the opposition without exposing the centre. And then you allow Mitrovic that little bit more space, because that back four is just getting that stretch that little bit more, and those runners and that energy that comes from the likes of Harrison Reed, dare I say it, allows for things to happen. Southampton 1, Arsenal 1, 0.67 to 0.94 in terms of XG. Complacency, Arsenal's biggest problem. I was concerned about this game, I've got to be honest. There's been a few of those over the years, isn't there? Southampton against Arsenal. They seem to have a decent record and have always been a bit of a bogey team for them. And this was very much a sort of game of two halves. I think people are now starting to see the sort of the end in sight in terms of the World Cup on the horizon. And for Arsenal, yeah, we're starting to get a little bit concerned, aren't we? I think you got to take time with it, and they were very, very good in the first half, and this was a game of two halves. But yeah, we've got to be careful with complacency with Arsenal, because this is what we're waiting for, isn't it? We're waiting for them to have a little wobble. I mean, Arsenal largely dominated the first half and created a lot of chances. However, Southampton switched systems during this match, and it completely flipped it on its head. Southampton started off with what resembled a 4-4-2, but due to Arsenal dominating them in the early stages, they switched to a back 5, and this was perfect in terms of limiting Arsenal's progression of the ball. And so, as you can see from the average positions here, Southampton effectively pressed the Arsenal defence and tried to create somewhat of a barrier to prevent Thomas Partey receiving the ball in the build-up. The knock-on effect of this was that Gabriel Jesus was having to drop deeper and deeper to facilitate the play. The Southampton press also stopped Arsenal from forming any kind of rhythm, which is really important with Arsenal and what they've been so impressive with. And that played massively into Southampton's hands in that home game with that home crowd behind you. Disrupting Arsenal's play from the back proved to be very, very effective in preventing them from stringing together attacking moves, but also meant that Arsenal struggled to have extended periods of possession. The momentum bar, let's have a look at that. It shows just how effective this was for Southampton from the point that they changed formation. And it also shows that it could be something other teams could look to replicate versus the Gunners. Because what we do know about Arsenal, we know how they play now. And so teams will start to find different ways of trying to exploit that. Arsenal fans, talk to me. Could you be accused of taking your foot off the gas here in this match? You know, with the opening exchanges hinting that Arsenal were going to be running away with it, they seemed a little bit complacent when things started to go Southampton's way. Instead of trying to overcome the new threat Southampton posed, they sort of let Southampton back into the game. Southampton scored in the 65th minute, but Arteta didn't make a change until the 71st minute in this match. So again, did Arteta, look, we know Arteta's wonderful, but could he have made those changes that little bit earlier? Could he have had that little bit more impact? Let me know how you're feeling in the comments below. I'd love to know how you feel. Wolves 0, Leicester 4, 2.2 XG for Wolves, 0.89 XG for Leicester City. Wolves fans, hit me up on Twitter. I just said hit me up. Twitter. Sorry. Wolves fans were writing in Twitter, typing. Okay, let's move on. Wolves fans were saying that we need to talk about this game, and of course we are going to. And Leicester were sort of everything that Wolves lacked in this game, and they're starting to find their feet, aren't they? The juxtaposition between the stats in this game is crazy. When you realise it ended 4-0 in Leicester's favour. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. But before we get into that, can we just take a moment of appreciation for Youri Tielemans' goal? Oh, it's gorgeous. Wallop. Anyway, Leicester showed Wolves what they were missing in this game, something we haven't said much about Leicester City this season. Wolves created chances and committed bodies forward well. And I thought they moved the ball into good positions, which is what they do most of the time. However, they just lack cutting edge, don't they? They can't put away these chances, and they were ultimately punished for it. In fairness, Wolves looked pretty good going forward, and this system is far more positive than under Bruno Lage. And I think a lot of people will go heavy in on Wolves, understandably so, because of the result. But that positivity is only going to get you so far, obviously, because when it comes to the style of play, they need to start scoring some goals. You know, Wolves took a total of 21 shots in this match, 15 of which were inside the box. And not only were they inside the box, but they were mostly in central areas. Despite the volume of shots, they only managed to get 6 on target, which is shocking, isn't it? And Wolves also created 2 big chances and missed them both, of course. And, you know, flip that onto Leicester, and you have a look at their stats. Leicester also created 2 big chances in the whole game, scored 4, and took them both. You know, that Tielemans goal, of course, is not a big chance, is it? And those 2 other goals were from low XG chances. I'd also like to point out how soft Harvey Barnes' goal was from a Wolves perspective. There are definitely, there's reasons to be annoyed at Wolves fans. I would also imagine that you would still keep calm and carry on. You will trend in the right direction. You know, Wolves, they can't be getting done by a simple 1-2 like they were in that game. And the problem is when you don't get the results, then the confidence starts to wane, and then performances get worse and worse. It was pretty much telegraphed to them that it was going to happen, that goal, and they still couldn't prevent it from happening. That's the basics, and that needs to be instilled in this team. And people are going to go towards the kind of Cody element of it. But I think there will be moments, but actually if the team can flourish with those centre-backs, then I think that will all quieten down a little bit. So what does this mean for Wolves? Well, I think what this means ultimately is that they need a new manager. I mean, there's a bit of a blueprint there in terms of what Steve Davis is trying to do, but I think you're going to look at him and he hasn't really got the gravitas to get anyone excited, and the rest of the team is going to be in limbo. I mean, that said, he's been given the job till January, so it does feel like you're going to get kind of caught. You can't go full throttle, can you, with a manager, both in terms of the investment of the players in that manager or the manager himself. So it does feel a bit funny right now. You know, Wolves sacked Bruno Lage on the 3rd of October, and it's now 3 weeks later, and they still don't look any closer to appointing a new manager. Wolves fans, talk to me. How are you feeling about this one? Are you okay with Steve Davis? Like, he is experienced in terms of coaching, and there are positive signs in some of the chance creation. Would you like to see someone come through the door, or is it worth waiting for the right guy? And obviously the right guy isn't Mick Beale. He said no to you. PBR Top League, currently. Leicester City, this was Leicester's first away win of the season, and it was probably the perfect away performance in terms of soaking up pressure, riding their luck a little bit at times, and attacking with intent and purpose. Back-to-back goals for Harvey Barnes is a huge plus, and both of them were assisted by Kieran Dewsbury-Hall as well, so confidence being spread around the group, which is really, really important. I mean, they've always scored goals, actually, Leicester, even in those difficult times, but it's shutting out the opposition, right? with these two coming into form, it's a big, big positive for Leicester as it relieves that pressure on Maddison to do everything as he was doing at one point. I did love his goal, and we're seeing that a lot with Maddison, where he's kind of drifting to one side, especially on his right foot, and you would expect him to hit it across the goalkeeper, but he hits it in that near post. It's becoming a sort of bit of a Maddison finish, as it were. That confidence boosting win could see that upturn in results continue. However, their next opponent is Man City, and with the chance that they allowed Wolves, I wouldn't be overly confident. Right, guys, keep an eye out for the second part of the fallout, having a look at Saturday's games. If you don't want to miss out on that, you will be notified if you hit that notification bell and subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button as well on your way out. I'll see you next time.